Hello United fans, this is the Red Devil review. We are filming this during the preamble to Man City-Chelsea. We don't know what the score that's going to be, and we have just watched Leicester beat Manchester United 5-3 in the beginning of Super Sunday, as they insist. I am Jamie, this is Will.
Hello.
Very much a game of two halves, and also it was a team of two halves really. We had the attacking side and the defensive side of our team. So first of all, should we do player ratings first, then get into the contentious issues?
Yeah, go on.
So player ratings. Me and William have done player ratings out of 10, as you'd see in the papers, the tabs and the broadsheets, and we're going to quickly justify them. So let's start with the goalkeeper. How do you think De Gea did today? Or De Gea, even.
With the methodology that 6 being your average,
yeah.
I said 5.
I also gave De Gea a 5. Why a 5, William?
Because you conceded 5 goals, so you can't be that great. Also, the fact that on a lot of occasions when the... Why are you laughing?
No, because I thought that was quite funny. You can't be that great. Yeah,
because on a lot of occasions when the defenders would pass back to De Gea, he would kind of take the ball, let an attacker press him, and then pass to someone who was often marked or closed down quickly. Which, I mean, obviously the defender has to react, but...
Yeah, his distribution was below average today for De Gea.
And he had about 3 or 4 goal kicks where he completely just kicked them straight into touch.
Which is not ideal. So, straight into the back four, William. Evans, injured early.
Evans injured early. He was below par, but wasn't in the game long enough to do anything particularly bad, other than get injured, so I also gave him 5. I
gave him a 6, actually. I thought he was alright. But come to think of it...
He was possibly at fault for the first goal.
For the first goal, and he did switch off. So, I'm going to stick with a 6 now. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because he seemed to do alright. He seemed to recover well from that, because we certainly didn't look like we were going to concede another one while he was on the pitch, and then when he got injured, obviously he was replaced. All hell broke loose. So that showed how important he may have actually been. Tyler Blackett was sent off. What did you give him?
I was going to give him a 6, but then conversely, he did get sent off for something that was definitely a sending off in my opinion. So I gave him a 5 as well.
I gave him a 6 because I thought without the sending off, I was considering putting him as high as maybe like an 8.
He was quite good.
I thought he was
by far our best defender, but in fairness, as you will soon discover from my awful ratings of them, that doesn't say much for the rest of the defence.
I would also say, yes, as we were saying during the game, that Tyler Blackett is entitled, as the youth player coming through, to be the weak link in the chain, because you play a youth player knowing you're giving them a chance to mature into the player they're going to be. So essentially, you're not judging them now, you're judging them what they show. And he had great composure, great strength. He would let strikers bully him. He didn't let Jamie Vardy bully him, which is great, but conversely, that meant that he then decided to bully Raphael and was just all over him in a way that he wasn't over Blackett. I thought he looked good in possession, unlike the other defenders that came on. All the other defenders were woeful in possession compared to him. And it was a real shame because he actually committed with a really good tackle on Vardy in the first half. I'm sure if you remember, he just flattened him. He had to get it right, otherwise it's a penalty in a yellow card. And then, desperate to cling on to a game at 4-3, throws himself to another tackle on Vardy, just mistimes it, but it's definitely a red card, unfortunately, and you'll have to learn from that. But the thing is, the amount of times you watch a striker run in on goal and the defender just sort of runs next to them and watches the goal go in, and you think, why didn't he commit to a challenge?
That's true.
So, fair enough for that. Big talking point for us, both of us. The fan favourite, Rojo, spends a lot of time with the fans and with his mum and with his kids. What do you think about his performance today?
I gave him a 2.
I gave him a 3 because I'm not as harsh as you. Why a 2, William?
Because he was fucking dreadful, is why.
Okay.
He would run... I'm fine with play if a wing-back's running forward and going on to attack, but you've got to run back and defend. And if you're not going to defend and you're a defender, then why are you there, other than to just run forward and create space for them? And you could argue that our front three of Rooney, Falcao, and Van Persie is more than capable of scoring without Rojo on the fucking overlap.
He definitely looked a wing-back in a position he wasn't used to, because he was roaming far too forward, far too often on the overlap, like a wing-back would, knowing he'd have 3 covering. But then also, what was more worrying to me was the fact that when he came centrally, he fucked up pretty much all of his heading.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, if we get Shaw back and he plays left-back and Rojo's supposed to be an improvement on the centre-backs, well, he's far inferior in the air to Jones and Evans and Smalling. Like, he was dreadful in the air. And in terms of left-back, I'd rather have Butner if he's going to play like that. because Butner was limited but enthusiastic. And the problem is, we spent £15 million on a player who, while very good at the World Cup, although I have to admit I didn't see much of him at Argentina's games, but I've been told he was quite good. As a wing-back, he was bloody shite. Like, that was probably the worst left-back performance I've seen of a player since whoever played left-back against MK Dons. But if we get rid of that game, if we say just the league games, since maybe Evra's debut, like, he was really bad. Because you've got to remember, even, like, Fabio played the Champions League final at right back, like, so he wasn't a particularly bad left back.
No.
Heinze was quality, although a fucking traitor. And Butner scored twice on his debut, didn't he? Or one wonder goal on his debut.
I think definitely once. I can't remember if he scored again. But
yeah, I mean, so in terms of left backs, and he wasn't that particularly great against QPR either.
No.
Like, there were quite a few opportunities that QPR got.
We were quite lucky because QPR, as we've said, were quite bad. But just
QPR were woeful.
As soon as someone decent, which happened to turn out to be Leicester, apparently.
Same problems.
Yeah.
And Rojo got a 2.5 on average from us. I'm not sure how. A lot of people seem to be focusing on the officiating. We're going to get to the officiating, but I would say with a left back playing as fullbacks, because we're going to move on to Rafael, playing as poorly as that, you're going to expect to feel some damage against a team playing 3 strikers. Very ambitious from Leicester. Rafael, I gave a 4.
I gave a 3.
You gave him a 3. What?
Yes.
Okay.
Because on my previous methodology of Rojo got a 2, I'd say Rafael did exactly this. He had made all the same mistakes as Rojo. However, when he did come forward, he did look dangerous in the sense of he would.
So he gets a 3.
He gets a 3. He gets one more because he would occasionally put in a ball that could be someone could get on the end of, and when he did cut inside, he wasn't woeful, but he was still pretty crap.
It's quite interesting because Rafael had a terrible game, but the moment in which you'd think, and Jamie Vardy of Leicester had an excellent game, but the moment in which you'd think those two narratives would come together quite seamlessly would be the penalty. Rafael fouls Vardy for a penalty, but it's actually the opposite way around. Jamie Vardy clearly knocks over Rafael at a moment, I'm not saying he should have been sent off, but at a moment where he already should have been given a yellow card for taking Rafael out from behind. They wave play on stupidly. Rafael gets up, goes to match Vardy for pace. Vardy sort of like jumps across him and literally dives. Potentially yellow card for diving. Could have been a second yellow card. And instead we got a penalty. So on the face of it, if you were told Rafael conceded a penalty from Vardy, if you were watching like the newspapers updates or goal updates or Sky Sports, you'd go, oh, Rafael's playing shit, Vardy's playing amazing, that makes sense. But it was a tremendously poor decision. But Rafael didn't help himself at all because he got up looking to hurt him. Like, he got up, was like, well, I'm going to deal with this, or whatever. So it was silly, it was over. And it was childish, and given that he's not a kid anymore, and given that we've already sold Fabio to Cardiff, and Fabio, by all accounts, apparently is doing crap.
Well, it's encouraging that we sold the right brother.
Well, we might have to sell both of them if you're going to act like this, because Rafael's incredible 2 years ago.
Yes.
But the problem is, if you're in your mid-20s, you need to be consistent, and you don't want to end up being like Valencia, who's definitely like his career, as far as I'm concerned, Man United is over and will be over next summer, or maybe even in January if we get a bid for him. But Rafael, considering how good he was against QPR, it was such a shame to see him play this poorly away from home, which seems to be a thing. Because I remember when we played quite an open game against a couple of years ago against Reading, where it was like 4-3, I think it ended, but it was like 4-3 at half time. Rafael was substituted by Ferguson after about 25 minutes because he was clearly like throwing himself into tackles, didn't know what to do, couldn't keep up with the pace of the game. You think someone as quick as Rafael would be able to keep up with the pace of the Premier League, given he's been playing it since he's 18. That still seems to be an issue, which is a worrying performance. But with Rafael, I still think he should be our right back. I still think he should start.
Yeah. Well, and who else we got? Because the only other option.
Well, William, you said you had a plethora of left backs, full-backs just a week ago, but apparently we don't.
Well, if they play like this, then we don't.
Oh,
we have people who can play those positions, but that way, apparently, although that has been called into question now.
Well, because Smalling, Jones, and Blind, I don't want to see Blind at right back. I don't
want to see him. Okay, let's just go on to Blind.
Okay, so Blind, we're counting him as the last person in the defensive half of the team, I would say. So Blind, I gave a 4.
I also gave a 4 because he was gash.
This was a very concerning one because against QPR, there were a lot of articles about how he quietly orchestrated it, and I thought he played pretty well against QPR, and we said that last week. He played very well against QPR for a debut, but against a poor side. But even then, Nico Kranjčar, the man he's technically supposed to be marking, got a few shots away. But I wasn't really concerned because A, they didn't go in, so I didn't have a chance to really think about it.
And we won.
And we won 4-0, and Blind was excellent at distributing possession. The problem was we're playing Leicester. Their midfield aren't great. They're good, but they're not great. And if Blind is going to get bullied and be incapable of passing around this midfield, what's he going to be like when Yaya or Torre's bearing down on him, or Fabregas is trying to create chances around him? He's going to be absolutely destroyed. I think Coutinho would have the better of Blind. And this is worrying because there are quite a few people on the Reddit soccer forum saying, a lot from Holland, saying Daley Blind, the reason that Van Gaal changed his whole system is because he doesn't trust Blind with Strootman's role. They think he can play left back. They don't think that he can play defensive mid. They were confused why we signed him. That looked to be inaccurate based on the QPR performance, but today that became slightly apparent that he's a bit lightweight.
Also, when we looked at the way we came forward, when Rafael and Rojo did their marauding, stupid as fuck runs forward, the idea would be that Blind would slot into the defence, but Blind was people running rings around him.
Yeah, he was all over the place. He didn't slot.
He'd either slot back in and not make a tackle, or he'd not slot in and then they'd just run and score.
Run straight past him, yeah. And the other thing was as well, that he wasn't given a lot of time, because presumably you want one fullback bombing forward, but Rojo would run back even if the ball was on the right hand side. He would be running as well. And same with Rafael was a little more disciplined, but Rojo especially had a fucking appalling game.
Yeah.
So now this is why it's a tale of two halves, because now we're going to move in to the attacking part of the squad. I gave Herrera a 6. Could have given him a 7 actually.
I did give Herrera a 7 because he scored a goal, which is obviously great.
No mean feat, obviously.
No mean feat. Admittedly, it was a cheeky little back heel as well. So
that was nice. Yeah,
it was a very nice goal. Also, he'd had the potential to score a couple of other ones, or at least set up another couple of ones because he had decent passing and his distribution was quite good. So yeah, I gave him 7.
I gave him a 6 because we were playing with 3 central midfielders, one of whom was having a terrible day in Daley Blind. One was having an incredible day, which made him look shite in comparison, because we're about to go into Di Maria. And Ander Herrera, he seemed again another problem, lightweight. The midfield looks lightweight. Di Maria can't help that, because he's clearly been born, he's genetically lightweight, but he deals with that by being a fucking insane talent, right? But there's no excuse for Blind, who's a defensive midfielder. And Herrera probably, he just can't tackle, but that's supposed to be fine because Blind's supposed to be doing it, but the problem is it's the same sort of thing if Carrick plays poorly and Fletcher plays poorly. Where does the blame go? Because distribution's poor, but it's not Fletcher's fault, but then also Carrick can't fucking tackle if he's playing poorly. So is that one of those days, those days in the maybe like the 2010 sort of time when we play 2 in the midfield?
Yeah.
The biggest problem I had with this was I was like, if we take Blind out and put Cleverley in,
oh god,
is this better or worse or actually the same?
Given
that he's been pretty good for Aston Villa.
No, it would be worse, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because Cleverley also couldn't tackle.
No, that's true, actually.
And all would happen there is we'd have someone who definitely couldn't tackle, failing to distribute the ball, whereas someone who can actually tackle but didn't, distributing the ball badly. So we'd have the same situation. It would just be the fact that there's no potential for improvement if it was Cleverley.
Yeah, without going on a tangent, I would say that it's quite interesting how the things that Cleverley clearly has, as proven by Aston Villa, which is passing in the final third, but essentially playing the number 10 role, and distribution from corners and free kicks, are the only attributes we didn't need from a player, because he's been pretty damn good on his his free kicks and his corners, but he's never going to stop Mata, Rooney, Van Persie or anyone like that, or Carrick, from doing them, because they're all better than him. So it's actually quite a shame.
Yeah, also
because I thought that was quite funny that the attributes he could have shown himself to be good at.
It's quite funny. It's kind of sad for Tom Cleverley in the sense, because you turn up and go, oh yes, I can play number 10. You're like, don't worry, I have to just beat Rooney and Juan Mata into that position.
Yeah, it's a shame.
So it's just like, well, that's kind of a shame, but then adapt to your situation and don't be crap for 3 years.
True, but Tom Cleverley and Danny Welbeck, both of them seem to be players who could have fit a role if that was ever our problem.
Yeah.
Like, if we ever had a problem with work rate of strikers, like say we had a lazy flop up front, I don't know, like Berbatov, he looks quite good. So the problem with Cleverley was he wasn't a tough tackling midfielder that was a limited defence. If he was Lee Cattermole, we would have probably kept him in the sense that because he's a limited defensive midfielder who puts in a shift. The problem is Tom Cleverley is a limited player in a position we didn't need.
Anyway.
And that's why Herrera gets 6.
Yeah.
So moving straight on, Di Maria, I gave him an 8.
I also gave him an 8
because
I revised mine up from a 7 because I'm thinking if I gave Herrera a 7, I couldn't possibly give Di Maria the same because Di Maria looked
absolutely brilliant. His balls were incredible. His little distribution in the final third. His goal was fucking delightful.
Yeah.
Like outside of the fact that if this was a win, then we'd be going on about that goal for most of this podcast because it was incredible. He had a chance. He created a chance for Van Persie, which Van Persie didn't score when it was 0-0 as well. Like he had everything to his game. It was a shame he had to come off.
I hate to bring up the crossing again, but good lord, it was delightful.
Jesus
Every
Christ.
single cross
Pinpoint
was pinpoint, and if
If they went over,
my
it was
God.
as far as I'm concerned. If you don't get on the end of a Di Maria cross, and
It's your fault.
It's your fucking fault because some of the ones they were going, oh, Di Maria, no one near anyone there. I was like, well, that's Falcao's fault for not running in because like Di Maria's like, yeah, it's about 2 yards in
old
front
Van
of you.
Persie's not quick enough to get on the end of it. It's your fault, mate.
It's your fault.
Run faster.
Di Maria's crossing is incredible. This is an interesting one. This might be contentious. What did you give Rooney?
I gave Rooney 6.
I gave him a 7.
I gave him baseline simply because, although he looked good in terms of his distribution and passing, he pretty much set up the Leicester attack for the Cambiasso goal. And then was apoplectic at the defence. Like,
yeah, but they should have dealt with that. Like, he muffed a cross, but then they...
No, he muffed a clearance that went straight to their attacking team.
Yeah, alright, but I would also say his general play up front was quite good, and I would say he probably would have got an 8 had Clattenburg not been the referee, because the amount of times Rooney had a pass on, he had to like adjust.
That is true, but we will get to that in time.
Like, that's the problem, because I always I said that last week actually, that the problem is that people insist on playing Rooney as a number 10, think he can play number 10. Well, Van Gaal said, "Oh, I'm going to play Rooney as number 10 to see what happens," and I was like, this is pretty fucking ignorant, because you should know Rooney can't play number 10.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have probably dropped it. I would have. We're going to get into it later in terms of what we would have done, but this reminded me of the game where we I think it was at Liverpool where we played Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, Berbatov, and we were jizzing about the front line, and then we lost.
Yeah.
Because it was such an unbalanced team.
Yeah.
And given that Van Gaal's all about philosophy and vision and balance, you'd think you wouldn't play Rooney, Falcao, and Van Persie together, given that everybody on Football Manager wouldn't do that. Let alone a fucking professional. Well, I don't know. It seemed odd to me that Rooney played quite well in a role I know for a fact he can't fucking do, which is number 10. And it wasn't made easier by the fact that Leicester's back four were very good. They had defensive-minded players like Cambiasso on him all over the time, and also Malcolm Clattenburg seemed to want to get involved on every occasion to try and tackle him.
It did look at times like he was standing next to Di Maria, like, "Oh, pass it here. I can see a ball on." When obviously it was
like he was moving.
Obviously, he can't see a ball on because he's a referee, and B, he's just in the way. But we'll get on to that in a minute.
Falcao, interesting one. I gave him a 7. I actually thought he was all right.
I gave him a 6. So because his cross was an absolute peach.
Yeah, and he turned to get
and he turned to lat, but he didn't do much else.
Yeah, but an assist for a striker doesn't not matter. He didn't really they didn't really create a chance for him. In fairness.
No, he did. Di Maria's crossing was good enough to get on the end of. He just didn't.
If he'd missed a glaring opportunity, I would have given him a 6 because I thought his work rate was pretty good. And I also think as well, I'm going to talk about this maybe a little later. Van Gaal's tactics I thought were very questionable in the sense that you've got someone like Falcao. He had to surprise me basically with that cross because why Falcao is playing essentially left wing in this stupid formation? I have no idea. We're playing with like Van Persie wide right, so basically Van Persie has to like cut inside and pass 30 yards back to Raphael the second he gets possession because he's on his wrong foot and he's on the wrong side. I don't know what they're playing at basically. So moving on from Falcao, Van Persie I gave a 6 despite his goal.
Yeah, I did as well.
Because I think he scored a goal that probably shouldn't have been a goal.
Yeah, he scored a goal that actually, if there was no defender there, would have been an easy save for Schmeichel. And he didn't really set the world on fire. And
if you think about, I always think of it as the context that Van Persie. A lot of people were saying that Van Gaal would pick Van Persie to be his captain instead of Rooney because he's a Van Gaal man. And although the spotlight's been away from him in the sense that it's on Rooney and it's on Falcao coming in, Van Persie's had a really poor season so far. Yeah. By his own excellent standards. His goal today should have been an easy save and he was very lucky.
Yeah.
Then he did nothing else for the rest of the game, thus completely throwing us off the idea that the monkey's off his back. And also, can you imagine that performance if he was captain? If he was captain, the pressure would be on him, and people would be saying this guy shouldn't be captain at all. We haven't had that with Rooney. People are unsure about him, but no one's gone, "Oh, Rooney shouldn't be captain" on the basis of his performances.
Yeah.
Whether or not Van Persie not being captain has affected his game, or maybe it's just the World Cup. Whatever it is, it annoys me, and we'll go into it. Danny Murphy said it today on Match of the Day 2 Extra, and I completely agree. He tisked when he sort of winced when he heard that Juan Mata was benched, because he said the guy scored more goals than any Man United player, and he set one up and scored last game. What does he need to do to stay in the team? And I was like, exactly. He's a better number 10 than Rooney. If you're going to get rid of anyone, you drop Van Persie. Especially given you give a bizarre press conference where you say the captain has privileges. If the captain has privileges, mate,
then why is Van Persie playing?
Then why are you playing Rooney in Mata's position? Surely the privilege should be that Rooney plays up front where he likes to play.
Yeah.
Stupid. Quickly, 3 subs. Mata, Smalling and Januzaj. Mata came on. I gave him a 5.
I gave him a 5.
Yeah, did nothing except
nothing.
lose. He lost possession, but it was all right. He lost possession for the goal that made it 4-3 to Leicester. But Rojo is literally in the final third, and we've got nobody else up, and he just passes to Mata,
Who is marked.
who's marked, and the only thing he can do, because he looks at the side, and who does he see but Mark Clattenburg in the way of a pass to Ander Herrera, so he has to turn the other way. The Leicester guy takes the ball, and the rest is unfortunately history. Smalling I gave a 4.
I also gave a 4 because
Smalling was a unwelcome addition to the back four.
he wasn't very good. Let's not lie. He wasn't very good, and the thing that I point out the most was the fact that it was whenever his man was retreating back towards his own goal, Smalling would go with him, which is like rule 1 of defending. You know, if they're running, and it got to the point where he was on the halfway line.
Jamie Vardy would just basically get in his eye line, deliberately run to the halfway line, knowing that Chris Smalling's a fucking idiot,
Would follow him.
and then immediately just allow Aloha to go, Hoshoa, to get in behind him.
Yeah.
And that was just like, that's perfect, but that's the sort of thing he would have been told to do in the conference when he was banging them in for Fleetwood Town.
Yeah.
He'd be like, oh, make sure your centre-back's out of position, create the space with the other striker, because we're playing with 3 strikers, so why not? So it was really poor. He did nothing. He was just... He summarizes the mentality of a team that have completely lost the winning mentality, in the sense that Chris Smalling is the sort of player that utterly capitulates under pressure.
Yep.
Plays well when we're winning, plays shite when we're not. He's one of those players. He's not directly to blame for us losing, but if we are losing, he's sure as hell not going to dig deep and find a performance. I've seen him play well, but only when we're already like 2-0 up.
Yeah.
Januzaj came on and had a fucking awful cameo. I gave him a 3.
I also gave him 3. What was your reason?
Well, he got the ball 3 times. One time he lost it immediately and whined like a little bitch to the linesman about nothing, like literally just got the ball was taken from him. And the other one was he was just stupidly offside by about a metre when he got the ball. And the other times he did nothing, didn't track back, just sort of watched us score. Watched us concede, sorry, I wish he was watching us score. And offered absolutely nothing for the small time. And people complaining on the forums and stuff about the fact Januzaj is not being played, and that Januzaj was like this incredible player that we're not using. And it was in the press conference, and Van Gaal said, well, he has to get in ahead of better players, and I don't think he should be getting in on the bench. I mean, if he's going to come on and play so abjectly, I'd rather have Young, because people kept saying, oh, he scored a hat-trick in the reserves against Sunderland, but if Young played for the reserves against Sunderland reserves, he scored a hat-trick. I mean, he's terrible. He's not good enough for Man United, but he's not terrible. He scored a hat-trick. Joe Cole scored a hat-trick for the Liverpool reserves. It doesn't mean he's going to come in and be amazing for Liverpool.
I mean, for me, yeah, it was the same reasons, really. Januzaj, he got the ball... I only counted twice, because the ball got passed through to him. Eventually it was a crap pass, but then Januzaj didn't even run after it.
Oh, that was annoying. He had there was a point towards the end where a ball was played to him a little bit ahead of him, and then rather than speed up so that there'd be a 50-50, he slowed down so the Leicester guy would definitely get the ball, because he'd rather the Leicester guy that he lost possession than he potentially injured his precious feet, which was doing nothing anyway.
He was muscle off the ball repeatedly. He didn't. I don't think he had. Did he have a shot? I don't think.
No, he didn't. He was.
He didn't have a shot, he didn't get in. He didn't. I don't think he even got in the box. And
If
he did, I wasn't even paying attention because they were laughing at all the other shitness that was going on.
The only reprieve that Januzaj has is that he was only shite for 10 minutes, as opposed to Smalling, who was shite since towards the end of the first half, and Rojo was shite for the whole game.
Yeah.
So William, now it's time for your little rant, because this may get a little inaccurate because William likes to boil over with rage. But let's go into how terrible Mark Clattenburg was. I would preface this by saying that I've been saying, obviously not on podcasts, for about the last 5 years. Actually, no, since I was in sixth form, maybe. So maybe 6 or 7 years. That this guy is not Premier League quality as a referee. And I would preface this by saying I don't think he's biased. I think he's terrible. And I will also preface this by saying that he literally gave us the game against Chelsea a few years ago. So let's not get into the whole Mark Clattenburg hates Man United stuff, because he doesn't hate Man United. He hates being good at his job, which is a shame.
No, I think he's the literal definition of incompetency. He's bad at his job, but he doesn't know what he should be doing. So therefore,
it's called the Kruger-Dunning effect. Is when you're so bad at your job,
you don't know what
skill,
the right thing is.
You don't recognise what good officiating is in this case. So he thinks he's much better. And it's basically the whole idea about why smart people are full of self-doubt and dumb people are really confident. And basically Mark Clattenburg is a refereeing equivalent of that.
So let's go through this with a fine-tooth comb.
Can I just say that was a very good point, well made, and I hope loads of people agree with that point, because Mark Clattenburg's a fucking cocksucker. Anyway, go on.
Right.
And I have to point out that sounded borderline homophobic, but I didn't mean it a homophobic way. I meant as in he's a terrible human being. That's what I'm saying. It's an insult.
Would you like me to rescue you from the hole you've just dug?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay, so Clattenburg's shitness. Well, let's start with the first half. Richie Delat. Right, there's a lot of things to say. In the build up to the first goal, Falcao turns Delat brilliantly and arguably, well, I wouldn't say he was chopped. He attempted chopping.
Delat attempted to chop him down. Falcao could have just taken it like a bitch and given Delat an easy yellow. I would say because we scored, it would have been harsh to give Delat a yellow, but had that not happened, I was expecting advantage to be played, basically, and it wasn't.
Yeah, there was no advantage, and I was expecting a yellow card, simply because he definitely he was completely turned, and he just kind of threw a leg out, and then Falcao had to readjust himself. So.
He literally jumped over a leg.
Exactly, so it was like there definitely should have been a yellow card. Then Delat proceeded to foul Blackett, incredibly painfully.
Yeah, he did a nasty little, he left a foot in, basically, as Blackett cleared.
He was clearly too far up the pitch, so he clearly noticed the fact. He was like, oh shit, I'm in the opposition area, I'm a right back, I shouldn't be here, and then basically got time to go back, and that was definitely a yellow card, so arguably could have been a second yellow.
And less than 30 seconds later, William, what happens?
He shoves Di Maria, which I would say was a foul, and then it didn't help the fact that he was also running, so he had momentum, and shoved Di Maria onto an athletics track bit next
and
to
also the other thing that was pretty damning in the replay is he doesn't look at the ball, he just looks at Di Maria, shoves him over into an athletics track, and what did Clattenburg do about this? No doubt he must have blown up play and decided not to give him a red card or something.
You know what? No.
What happened there?
It was a throw-in, I do believe, to United, wasn't it?
No, he just played on. The ball stayed on the pitch, and he just played straight on and they had a chance to score, and it led to a corner which they nearly scored from.
Yes. But yeah,
all the while Di Maria's writhing in pain on the floor.
The ironic thing of this point is, after the first 16 minutes when we were 2-0 up, oh no, it must have been 2-1, I turned to Jamie and went, you know what, I don't like Clattenburg, but he's not done anything wrong so far, because I remember he gave us a free kick because of it was a foul, but it was definitely a foul, admittedly it was in front of him, when the ball was played wide.
Rooney was dragged by somebody and he played advantage nicely and gave us a free kick.
So it was like, okay, that's good officiating. And
straight from that free kick he started fucking up because he got in the way of Di Maria. They were trying to play a short free kick to Di Maria and he just stood in the way of Di Maria. And then he stood in the way of Rooney so that Di Maria had to try and go around the Leicester defender, and the choice was either pass to Rooney but it may hit Clattenburg, or go for a cross, and he went for the cross and it went off. So I'm thinking, hello. Suddenly he's all over the shop. He's like he wanted to be part of the triangles we were playing. He was in the way all the time.
I mean, I hate to think if he was managing a game in which it was like Gattuso was the player who's trying to screen out wide and Clattenburg's in the way, Gattuso would have ripped his balls off, because it's just like, you're in the way every single time and I'm not in the mood for this shit. If it was like Roy Keane or someone who just doesn't give a shit anymore. If
Clattenburg got in the way that often in a game involving Barcelona, you'd be tricked into thinking Barcelona couldn't pass in the final third.
Yeah, I mean, it was awful. It was just atrocious. He was in the wrong position every single time.
It got to the point where in the second half it looked deliberate, because there'd be a break on and he'd stand directly in the way of the only player United could pass to, and then he wouldn't run quick.
Out the way.
And as Leicester was breaking for the Vardy goal, he's jogging.
Yeah.
Whereas if Man United were breaking, he'd be right on top of Rooney.
I'd like to point out this is also still in the first half. And also another point to make is that United were given a corner.
This is the dumbest fucking decision I've ever seen. Di Maria shoots and it misses the goal and anybody by about 30 yards to the right, and he gives a corner.
To which point all the Leicester fans, they didn't even boo. They were just kind of looking like, what the actual fuck just happened?
We must have missed something because that was
because this was so obvious. It's like they were all just like, this can't be happening because we must be wrong, because there's no way he could be that wrong. Turns out yes. But yeah, that was bloody awful.
So first half, Clattenburg's already dispelled the rumours that he's a competent referee, which lasted all about 10 seconds on Match of the Day.
It was fantastic. It was just like, genuinely thinking for 15 minutes he was looking like an all-right official, and then that was undone in half an hour, which is...
and both sides were unhappy with him because he was stupid. He was in the way for both sides in the middle of the park as well.
Then... my next point of contention is after the second half, which is in second half, which is the Nugent penalty, which is literally a catalogue of how not to give decisions. The first one, Raphael and Varney jostling, and then, but clearly Varney shoulder barges, but Raphael has his back to him.
Raphael,
so he shoulder barges into his back.
Yeah.
So yes, you can guess it's something's coming, but it's into his back, so therefore it's actually a foul.
And it's
right
also
there.
with a substantial amount of force, because you see a lot of defenders, they get touched, they go down. Like Vidic was very clever at doing this. He used to like control possession, make sure he had possession, get a touch, fall over. You can't do anything but give a free kick because he was clearly in control of the ball. Raphael is literally shoved over with full force. Like if you shoved someone over in the street with that much force, they'd fall over.
Yeah.
This isn't like sort of simulation or trying to... You got to understand the context. This wasn't a football style fall over. This was a proper, like, if someone did this to you in a shopping supermarket or something, you'd fall over.
So that point already should be blow up, yellow card, arguably for Varney.
And he's on a yellow as well. He should be on a yellow.
He
should already be on a yellow, but he wasn't on a yellow.
So that should already have stopped. Then Varney runs into the box. Raphael then manages to catch up, stands kind of jogging next to him. Varney kind of...
He puts his right leg in front of Raphael. Waits for a minutiae of contact. Like literally doesn't have time to wait for contact. 'Cause he wants to dive so quickly.
And then he does dive.
Dives. This could be a yellow card, as we've said previously, for diving. Instead, it's given as a free kick, to which everyone...
No, it's a penalty.
Penalty, obviously. Why did I say free kick? What I thought was quite interesting was because this was a second case of something that I find really annoying. Could somebody please tell me whether or not the rule that they instantiated, that the captain's allowed to take umbrage with referees' decisions... I used umbrage again. I'm getting in. Yeah. Getting in by the high five for the use of umbrage. Are captains allowed to complain to the referee? Because Rooney got booked for complaining... And he literally, as everyone's complaining, he makes the point of doing the whole captain thing. He tells, I can't remember who else it is, but it's definitely Blackett. He tells, move away, I'm the captain. Goes, you've got to look at the actual decisions here. This is a terrible decision. Gets a yellow card for protesting. If the only person who's allowed to protest is the captain, and captains keep getting booked, because I'm thinking the Huntelaar incident in midweek, then we might as well get rid of this whole system, because it used to be that everyone complained and no one got a booking. Now, the captain takes full responsibility for complaining and gets a yellow card. And we're going to get to the point, probably this season, where a captain on a yellow gets sent off for correctly complaining about a decision that's terrible. And I don't want to see that, because that would be completely ridiculous. And it just adds to the level of injustice. So, good penalty. De Gea nowhere near it, obviously. Yep. And suddenly the tide's turning, because it's 3-2, but we were comfortable at this point. Yeah. So what happens then? Rooney presumably is going to lead us on to glory, is he?
Well, no, we've already said what happened.
No, he doesn't,
Rooney, Rooney, he muffs a clearance for the Cambiasso goal, and then obviously is absolutely fuming at the defence.
Which I might say is not good captaining.
No, if you make a mistake and then admittedly the defence wasn't great, but if you specifically are the one who fucks up, then you turn to the defence and go, what the fuck is wrong with you? It kind of undermines your authority that they could easily turn around and go, what do you mean, us? What the fuck did you just do?
Yeah. Exactly.
Admittedly, that was a slight tangent because it had nothing to do with Battenberg. However, the Varney goal definitely could have had something in it.
Now, I didn't spot this, and it looked on the post-match that we didn't spot it too, because obviously everyone was focused on the red card for Blackett and obviously the penalty before. But William noticed this, and at first I thought, no, this is nothing, this is Chris Smalling being shit. But if you look at the replay, William, what happens?
Well, actually, no. Even if you go before that, as you said earlier, Clattenburg was in the way of a Rojo pass, which then means he had to pass to Mata, which he then lost. So
and also Mata as well. He's in the way of the Mata's pass as well. Let's not forget that. He's literally in the way of everything.
Point number one, Clattenburg already fucking up our attack. Then, ball comes over the top. It looks like it's going to be an easy header for Smalling. Then, I spotted this straight up. Varney gives him a little shove in the back, which sent him forward enough so he missed the header, and then Varney just ran in and scored. But at the time, you have a look at the replays, Jeff definitely looked like that was enough to give a foul, because it was literally just a shove in the back. Not an elbow in the back, it was just a shove with both hands.
Now, at the time, I said to William, like, this is Chris Smalling just having a shy game, because I would say, if this was Vidic or Ferdinand, they would be so strong they didn't feel that shove. But this is like a mountain of stuff, like Jamie Varney, let's not take anything away from him, this guy had an incredible game.
Yeah.
But, he had a kick out at Smalling in the first half, and there wasn't no talking to. He's already knocked over Raphael. He's gone in the back of Raphael. He's dived in the box. He's now shoving a guy. I mean, if anyone had a great performance but could well have had none of the things he deserved happen, this was the guy.
Yeah.
Because he only scored one goal, and that should have been blown up. He only had one assist, which was a penalty that should have been an assist, and he he didn't 2-foot someone, but he certainly scissored from behind a player. So, cracking performance. I'd give him a 9, probably.
Yeah.
Considering the quality of his actual ability, this might be the best game he ever has. It was a bit soft, I would say, William.
It was soft, but you've seen them given. You've seen them given.
And it seems like, when referees make two bad decisions and one cancels out the other in the sense that they give an unfair decision, that could have been his opportunity to blow up easily but then stop the sort of the fact that there was 3-3 because he'd fucked up before.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting one.
The final one was the Ochoa penalty, which, to be honest, I have no complaints about. It was definitely a penalty.
But it was really a shame because Rojo's on if he loses the ball again. Rojo should be punished for his shyness, but instead Blackett is punished for attempting to do what you'd hope a centre-back would do, which is commits to a challenge to stop a shot, and unfortunately just gets it wrong. But it's obviously definitely a red card.
Obviously, yeah, the red card, some may dispute it, I personally don't. However, also a point to mention is that when you look at the actual speed of the game, and this wasn't just true of the final penalty, it was true of the game throughout, Clattenburg, when making the decision, had to run pretty much from the centre circle over to the edge of our box to make the decision. He'd blown up, he'd signalled for a penalty, but he had to run quite far before we actually got into the box to point at the spot, as in he was standing over it. So it was just like, well, why are you so far away? I mean, yes, it was the right decision, it was definitely a penalty, but why are you
shouldn't be that far away.
You shouldn't be that far away.
You should be on the edge of the area when a break's happening. Like, if there's a break happening, you should be out, you should know where the other midfielders are to make sure you're not in the way, and you should also be
Which
up
obviously
with them.
we already know he can't do that.
Yeah, and you should be at the same level as them in terms of, like, Phil Dowd. People go at Phil Dowd for being fat.
At least he can keep up with the play.
He can keep up with the play. I don't really care if he's fat. I care if he makes the right decision, he keeps up with the play. And plenty of other people that look less fit than Mark Clattenburg are capable of keeping up with the play. Plenty of referees in the Championship that aren't giving away these high-profile errors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think obviously every single poor game Clattenburg has is the next game that people go, this is the point when he's going to lose his place to another referee from the Championship. But there seems to be essentially a cabal of referees, Premier League high-profile celebrity referees that sort of protect one another.
I mean, I don't know who the name of the referee was who was the fourth official.
And now Howard Webb's got a sort of non-executive director position, some bullshit job.
I mean,
so
I
he'll
noticed
protect them even more.
Also, I noticed on the touchline the fourth official was, I can't remember his name, but
it doesn't matter.
He was a Premiership referee, and you would recognise him if you saw him.
Yeah.
And he's not particularly controversial in the sense that he doesn't get to send everyone off for no reason. He just does like an average job, which, to be honest, which is what you want to expect. You don't want the game to be dominated by terrible officiating, but just how it happens on this one, it was. Don't get me wrong.
We deserve.
We were awful. We were just awful.
I think if anything, there's, because we went into the refereeing decisions, which obviously are a hot topic, and we should go into them. But I feel it also is almost borderline neglectful to put all the blame on Clattenburg, because with another referee, we still could have found another way to throw this away.
5 goals against Leicester. Doesn't matter what form they come in.
I've got some controversial questions to ask you, and now you're riled up, you may give controversial answers.
Jesus Christ.
William,
what?
Would we have conceded 5 against Leicester under Moyes?
No. And the reason being, as much as I don't like Moyes, his defending, or any...
His obsession
with defending, even though we are Manchester United, he would have, after... in his typical way of resigning to defeat after we were probably 1-0, if we were 2-1 up. If we were 2-1 up. Actually, no, we wouldn't be 2-1 up because we wouldn't have the Falcao and fucking Di Maria. If we were like 1-0 down, he would resign himself to either defeat or he would just... We'd score one and go, right, then we'll see out a boring 1-1 draw, and then everyone would have a go at Moyes for going, why the fuck didn't we win that game? Which is fair enough. However, we probably wouldn't have lost 5-3 because, as much as I didn't like Moyes, we were alright defensively, considering the shit players we had.
We were pretty poor everywhere on the park with Moyes, but in a very dull, grey, depressing way. Now we are shite in a exciting way.
I'd rather draw 1-1 or lose 2-1 than concede 5 goals of fucking Leicester. Which is atrocious. Let's not take away from the fact that is an atrocious thing to happen.
It's an atrocious thing to happen, and it's also something that wouldn't have happened under Ferguson. And it's also something that wouldn't have happened under Moyes, which leads me to question like Van Gaal here, because you have to look at this and think he's had 150 million. That's more than Ferguson's ever had in one transfer window. He's had more than Moyes ever got. I mean, Moyes was sacked before he got a chance to use this money. We don't know what he would have done. I don't particularly want to have seen him. I much prefer Van Gaal.
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing. But he takes time to get going, Van Gaal, so we're going to have to accept this sort of thing happening more often.
But I mean,
because this is what happens for 6 months whenever you get Van Gaal as manager.
On the topic of transfers,
and you either win the cup double or it completely capitulates and you sack him before he gets a chance to win the cup double. But you usually do pretty piss poor at the beginning of the league start.
Yeah, but on the topic of transfers, we signed, in terms of defensive players, we'd already signed. We'd signed Shaw, we signed Rojo, and we signed.
Didn't play today, bizarrely.
Shaw didn't play.
Still,
I can't remember if he's still injured or not. Rojo, Shaw, and Daley Blind. Daley Blind is looking inconsistent and today he was bloody awful. Shaw hasn't played. I haven't seen him play much.
I think he's cracking, but he hasn't played yet. So
And Rojo was bloody terrible. So, and
been
also,
average and terrible.
out of all our defence, arguably, we would need a centre-back, which we didn't sign.
which we brought through Tyler Blackett, but that doesn't really count because if Tyler Blackett wasn't good enough, then in that case we're like
Exactly.
2x2
Imagine if Tyler Blackett wasn't our best defender. Which,
Like, he
to be
wasn't
honest,
good enough.
exactly. But that's the point we've got to make is the fact that Blackett is arguably our best defender. If Blackett wasn't our best defender, we would have so many problems. It would hurt. If Tyler Blackett wasn't as good as he is.
Surprisingly good as well, because he wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to make it this far. By all account, Birmingham and Blackpool both had him on loan and thought he wasn't particularly good at left back and didn't understand the hype, and he's playing incredible. My biggest worry is going into there seems to be a lot of this is all Clattenburg's fault, and Van Gaal is immune to criticism, which I think he hasn't earned the right to be immune for criticism. Yes, he's brought us in Falcao, yes, he's brought us in Di Maria, but Ferguson had 20 years of sustained success, and we had people when we didn't win a title saying, "Oh, Ferguson's got to the end of it." And even I sometimes criticise Ferguson for legitimate reasons. It was usually transfer policy based, but Van Gaal has made some tactical errors here. He's not played Mata. We're defensive all over the place. We're way too open. At 2-0, there is a time when you have to take responsibility, and going on about philosophy and balance and having the most unbalanced side I've seen in Man United's history in terms of attack versus defence, in terms of quality, and the fact that the attack play in the world of their own, like Real Madrid level quality, and our defence play in a league of their own, Real Madrid quality.
Championship.
No, I was going to make a joke about Real Madrid having a crap back four, but they
right.
don't. They have a cracking back four at the moment. But yeah, we're playing essentially with like a championship defence with a Champions League attack, and it seemed obvious to everyone in the world that he could have got in a centre-back. And in fact, we probably needed a centre-back more than we needed Rojo.
Yeah.
Is Rojo supposed to be a centre-back? Because he's playing left-back and he's fucking crap at it. I mean, obviously we've got to give these people time to adapt, but there's adapting and there's just running mindlessly out of position, which is not to do with adapting. Adapting would be losing strength, aerial duels, not keeping up with the pace of the game. But he's got pace. And the aerial duels, I mean, he was missing headers when nobody was trying to go anywhere near him. And he certainly didn't lose for strength.
No.
It was just the fact he had a piss poor game.
Again, what we said earlier about if you take our front attacking five of Di Maria, Herrera, Rooney, Falcao and Van Persie, which doesn't include Mata and it doesn't include Januzaj when he plays not Gash, that is more than capable enough of creating chances and scoring goals.
That attack could win the league.
Why
the defence
hell
could get relegated.
Why the hell is Rojo and Raphael bombing forward to put in terrible crosses when we already have creative players in the middle?
The argument would be something like the idea that we're too narrow otherwise, but that's bullshit because the strikers are going stupidly wide and Di Maria can commit, like he can terrorise on the wing. The other thing I would say is, as we said during the game, as you kept saying, why are we bombing forward, we keep losing possession, we're really vulnerable in the counter-attack because we've got two relatively inexperienced, over-enthusiastic fullbacks that can bomb forward without really posing any sort of crossing threat and can't defend at all when they're not playing well. And what we really need is a nice boring flat back four with maybe a sort of Gabby Hainsey type of left back and a Wes Brown style solid but not particularly good attacking right back, and just play a flat back four with this formation and we could do wonders. But this might be the first stumbling block in terms of the stubbornness of Van Gaal.
Do you know what the funniest thing is that when I was looking at Raphael, he'd run forward, he'd cut inside and put in an awful cross. And then I'm thinking, Gary Neville used to play right back for us. He would get forward and he would put a ball in, but the ball would go in the box.
Oh yeah,
and it would be a great cross on him.
He had an underrated cross in because Beckham was his overlap.
Yeah, and then when he would put the ball in, would he fuck around in the middle like, oh, don't worry, I'm still here. You can pass me. I'll have a shot for some reason. No, he'd run the fuck back and get in defence.
That was what I loved about Gary Neville because he'd run on the overlap for Beckham. Half the time Beckham would cross anyway, and he'd run immediately back, or on the overlap he'd cross. And then he'd see what happened and he'd immediately run back.
Yeah.
Whereas Raphael he's like, I've committed to being up front now, so if I cross in and I fuck it up, I'm going to stay around here until we lose possession, which is
awful.
Okay, but
that's it.
Let's leave on a positive note because we've got West Ham at home. That's a winnable game. Biggest threat.
This was a winnable game. It doesn't matter anymore.
Is that winnable game may have changed now because West Ham are on fire. They beat Liverpool.
That wasn't funny.
Sacco and Enner Valencia have some incredible pace and ruthless finishing. Surely this back four is going to be destroyed by them, or will it be Old Trafford, optimistic again now that the dirge of Moyes is over, and the fact that we have quality players. Will this be the game that Falcao hits a hat-trick in? Is this going to be the turning point in terms of getting a nice big scoreline again, like we did against QPR?
I mean, to be honest, I have no idea what the answer is going to be. If Falcao scores, and he scores well, and he scores a couple of goals, then fine. But I'm more than expecting to concede at least one. Because West Ham's attack is playing very well, and our defence is looking fucking awful.
In terms of next week, assuming that the injured players stay injured and the fit players stay fit, what would your starting 11 be? So De Gea and Gaal still?
Yes, because we have no other option of quality.
Presumably if Evans is injured, you have to play Smalling.
We'd have to play Smalling.
Smalling, Blackett. Blackett's suspended.
Blackett's suspended.
Blackett's suspended, so we're already in trouble.
So we have to play Smalling.
Rojo, we have to play then. We're going to play Shaw left back.
Okay.
So it's Rojo, Smalling.
Shaw and Raphael's the fullbacks.
Yeah, and then presumably, would you keep Blind?
I'd keep the same midfield.
Blind, Herrera, Di Maria, and would you bring Mata back in?
Yeah,
and drop Van Persie?
drop Van Persie immediately, and then in a heartbeat, and play Rooney up front because that's where he plays, and then play Mata in his creative role.
I mean, what annoys me about this more than anything else is the fact that anyone could see this team and go, "This is unbalanced. We probably should have played Mata instead of Rooney, drop Van Persie." Everyone was saying that. Danny Murphy said that. Danny Murphy trying to be the Fulham manager in the bottom load of the Championship. He's just a sensible dude. Sensible dude, football man. Anyone could have seen that this team was unbalanced. A quality team, no doubt, but an unbalanced team. And the fact that Leicester could pick us off, let's just give Leicester a fucking big hand because they were incredible.
They were fantastic. Well, it's worth pointing out that although Leicester were better than they are expected to be, they were made to look even better.
I think the biggest problem with here is it made Leicester look even better than they are in the sense that because our attack was so fucking good, when we lost possession past the halfway line, it made Leicester look incredible that they could get past our back four and score. Because it was like, this is the team with Di Maria and Rooney and Falcao in it. How could they possibly be crumbling to a show or whatever? But the back four, it was like two separate teams. Past the halfway line, a completely different team.
Yeah.
They were in their own half, they were defending against Barcelona. And then when they got into their other half, they were playing Tenerife or something.
Yeah.
To use Spanish. I don't know why I went Spanish for that. But
I mean, Rojo, Blackett, Smalling, Raphael. That's easily something like a. That could easily be the defence of Newcastle. Easily.
Fuck off, William. Surely
That
not.
could easily be the defence of Newcastle.
My problem is we bought Rojo.
Newcastle are shit. Let me put that caveat. Newcastle are shit.
My main problem with the Rojo, I hope he proves me wrong because he seems like a lovely dude. And he's great with the fans, and he's Instagramming all pictures of the door, and he seems great. But my thing that what is worrying me about this deal is that Butner was okay. He had a good relationship with the fans. He was a good backup, but not good enough for Man United. He complains about not getting in the Holland team, despite the fact there's a lack of left backs. He's not even in the backup list for Holland, and he's sold before Van Gaal even gets there to Dynamo Moscow. He arrives and goes, "Oh, we need left backs," right? Well, then don't fucking sell all your left backs because he also sold Evra, who's better than Rojo. Evra Poor is better than Rojo Poor, I'd say. And the other factor is that he said the reason he bought Rojo is, and quote me for this, I mean everybody, Simon Cooper, who played wrote Soccernomics or Why England Lose, will be wincing at this. He said Rojo played really well at the World Cup, that's why I bought him. Now,
everyone knows you don't buy players who play well at the World Cup.
In terms of transfer fallacies, buying a player because they play well at the World Cup
By that
is
logic,
right up there. It's like buying someone because they're Brazilian in terms of, and that's why I really hope. I mean, this guy's the left back for Argentina. He must be cracking, surely.
Yeah,
he's gonna explode.
I mean, he was in the World Cup final, but
he lost. But
he
that's
lost.
not the point.
That doesn't matter. He lost.
Well, it doesn't matter for him. But the point we're making is that given how poor he was, this is not a good start. Because we bought a World Cup winner.
That is very
we bought a World Cup winner in central midfield, name of Cleverson, and everyone thought that'll be the answer to our midfield. He won the World Cup by the age of 20.
Everyone forgot that.
And we've just spent 15 million on a left back who nearly won the World Cup. Anyway, we're supposed to be controversial. We've been harsh on Rojo, but we are more than happy next week to be if he plays incredibly, we're more than happy to eat our words of humble pie because above everything else, we are massive Manchester United supporters. We want Manchester United to do well. We want Rojo to do well. We hope this is just a piss poor game he puts behind him, and we hope that he Literally, I hope he scores a 30-yard wonder goal, and then literally it tells us all to fuck ourselves, basically. So hopefully next week, West Ham is the late kickoff on the Saturday, I believe. Hopefully that will be a glorious 7-4 win, and we'll be right back on track. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be an entertaining season, especially when we've got such a world-class attack and such a piss-poor defence. I do not want to see us play City away, that's for sure.
We're going to get murdered.
But the thing is, against when we played with the Moyes team, I was like, well, we're going to get murdered. This team, I'm not so sure. Because this team, I'm like, well, we've got Di Maria, Falcao and Rooney and Van Persie, so we can outscore anyone.
But conversely,
we can out-concede anyone as
well.
Yeah. So, hopefully, bad day in the office. The main thing to take from this is that we still have absolute quality up top, which Manchester United prides itself on having. We still have issues in defence, and the officiating was piss poor, but we shouldn't be able to capitulate like that. We're Manchester United, for God's sake. We're supposed to not capitulate like that. That was Liverpool-esque, that capitulation.
Well, quite.
Liverpool-esque.
And that is the highest insult of any United team, to be compared with Liverpool.
I have been Jamie, and I apologise if I've said anything that you hate. Please like the video on YouTube and comment. If you're on Mixcloud, please subscribe to my personal account. Thank you for listening. William, do you have anything to say to the people?
Apologies for the despondency, but, you know, you can't really blame us. That was awful, wasn't it, just to watch?
It wasn't great. It was actually quite fun. It was quite fun to watch when we were winning. But
well, in fairness, we did say that. Well, thank God the podcast is going to be interesting, because if it was
that was one thing.
If it was 2-1, they'd be like, oh, that was boring. We'd be done in 10 minutes. But no, it was a lot of drama. So yeah.
First podcast to break an hour actually. So hopefully I can edit this down.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening, and hopefully we will burst the bubbles that are West Ham's next weekend. Until next time, this is the Red Devil Review. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.